So you're from England originally. That's where you're from originally. Tell me a little bit about that. Where did you grow up?
Uh, well, I grew up in pretty much until I moved here, I lived in the same town for 35 years of my life. I moved a few places across that town, moved in with different housemates over the course of my life. Um, but yeah, I was always in the same. So it was something, if you'd have asked me, or if you'd have said to me, oh, my life would be in Chile, I'd, be married, have a child, do what I'm doing. Uh, Not only would I have laughed, everybody, around me, my family, my friends, they would have laughed too. And to be honest, they did. When I told them that I was going, it's like, no, you're not. You're not going. But
And so, what town was that in England?
so that's a place called Doncaster. Yeah, it's in the region of South Yorkshire. So it's kind of more in the north, kind of like a couple of hours away from Manchester. It's normally kind of like when somebody doesn't know where Doncaster is, and like the generic thing when people, oh, is it? Are you anywhere near London? The other one that they tend to know is Manchester, which is further
Yeah.
north because of the football. So it's I normally reference Manchester just to see if it triggers any any location kind of point of contact. But
Yeah, it's kind of like that
yeah,
in Canada too. When you talk to people internationally, nobody knows any Canadian cities, and so you have to just like you have to change where you're from to make it
yeah,
understandable for the other
totally.
person. Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, I'm from this small town. It's like, okay, well, is that close to Vancouver? It's like, yeah, 12 hours. Let's say it's 12 hours from Vancouver. Does that help?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Doncaster, you said you spent a bunch of time there for the first 35 years of your
Yeah,
life.
just there for throughout my life. Always like quite. I just guess I loved where I lived. Really, it was like I still have got the best set of friends there, and that was probably the most difficult part of the whole process in terms of leaving that friendship group that I'd been so close to, had been my family, for a long time, it was like a brotherhood really. So that was probably the most difficult thing about leaving the town. But
Sure. I mean, 35 years is a long time to, build relationships with people. So like, were you going on any trips, around Europe or the UK during that time, or were you pretty much just living there?
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I've done trips to from the point of where somebody says they go traveling. I went on holidays. Whether I wouldn't say I was a well traveled person in terms of going to explore the world to see different things, different cultures. That wasn't me. I was very much like just a lad's lad living for the weekend kind of guy, and which I can get onto if you want me to from a personal aspect, because that the personal journey actually plays a big part of how I kind of got here. But I don't know if you I don't know if you want to delve down that angle or you want to keep things Chile and England.
I mean, let's do it. Yeah, for sure. Like, you mean like the change between living in that town to wanting to go to a different place? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I'm here for a reason, which is for love. That's the whole reason why I moved. I'll try and, because if I don't tell you it, then I feel like it's kind of, it depends what you want from the podcast. Really, as many juicy bits as possible, I imagine. But so basically, like I said, I've lived in the same kind of place all my life, and uh, when I was kind of 25, 26, I would say, I lost my dad to cancer and my best friend in a car crash in the same year. And it kind of it hit it hit me in a weird way. Like, I mean, it would hit anybody obviously in a bad way at the time. But from that point, I kind of didn't want to feel sadness. I hate Nobody wants to feel sadness, but I hated the thought of feeling down. So for 10 years of my life, I did anything to feel up. So, as I pointed out, I was the type of guy to live for the weekend. So, every single weekend I'd be going out, getting drunk. I had a decent job. I was doing all right from that side. Like I said, had a great set of friends. It was just, where I was basically. So, I spent a lot of years just kind of doing that over and over, drinking, taking drugs, and kind of just instead of growing as a person, well, while all my friends were building relationships, getting married, whatever it was, that time, that period between 25 and 35, they all kind of grew up, like what in terms of what you should be doing in life, whereas I was, doing things I shouldn't. And at the point, I had to go down to London for a couple of days with my job at the time. Um, and during that trip, it was in 2017, that trip would have been. I would have been in my early 30s. And while I was out on a night out on a 2-day working trip in London, is when I met this girl from Chile. She was on the last 2 days of a solo trip around Europe, with London being a last stop, effectively. Uh, and our paths crossed on the first night, and we got on really well. So we decided we were going to meet up on the second night as well. While she was there, again, we had a great night, but then she flew back to Chile. I went back up north to Doncaster, and I honestly thought I would probably never see this girl again, if I was honest at the time. And then we carried on texting, messaging each other, calling each other, and it got to a point after a few weeks, because she started talking like, maybe we should try and arrange to meet up in the future and stuff. And I started to panic, basically. And I kind of thought to myself, like, fuck, like, what have I'm 30, I must have been like 32. What have I got to offer this beautiful woman, wants to like come and see me again, or for me to go and see her again? Like, I've got no fucking savings. I just wasn't, I didn't feel very good at myself, but very good about myself at the time. So I basically said to her, I don't think we should like continue messaging, or I can't see it really going anywhere. And instead of her putting down the phone or what have you, she basically, said, talk to me. Like, what's wrong? What's the problem? So I was very honest with her in terms of my conversation, in terms of kind of where I was, what I felt like. And she kind of gave me a good few verbal slaps from a distance, really. And just kind of G'd me up and was like, fucking, it's going to be all right. Everything's going to be fine. And I thought, okay, right. Okay. Let's just see how things go. And then not long kind of after that, I went out on a night out, and I was with one of my training partners. Now, just to sort of put that together, the year before that, I started training back. I used to train years and years ago, in a form of martial arts. And I went back to a mixed martial arts gym, did Muay Thai and kickboxing. And I ended up doing like a charity fight the year before that. And it kind of sorted me out a little bit. And then I kind of slipped back into my old ways. Anyway, I was out drinking with one of my training partners from this. She's a great friend. And again, I told her on the night out, I was like, fucking, I don't know what to do with myself. Like, I'm in this position. Like, I don't know. I just don't know what to do. Like, it was just that conversation. I was just here in my mind. And she said to me, you need to fight. I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, no, you need to have a proper fight, something that you can dedicate yourself to. And I thought she were, I thought in my head, after a few beers and stuff, oh, she's mad. It's just drunken conversation. That same night, I ended up getting in my car whilst drunk, and I kind of smashed into my own house a little bit on the way back, which obviously wasn't a great thing to do.
Better than someone else's
Uh,
house, though, I guess.
yeah, exactly. So obviously on the plus side, nobody was hurt apart from my pride and the wall of the property, and I had a very pissed off housemate. Now that housemate, thankfully, is also one of my best friends, and well, let's just say he was quite angry with me both on the night and in the morning. But he was let's say brave enough to have a honest conversation with me and basically say, you're again kind of reiterating what the girl had told me the night before, but in, in very different words. And basically just said, I need help. But he didn't mean to go and see like he's just said like, not like I've got a certain problem, but I just need to do something, need help, like sort yourself out, basically. So after the conversation from the night before, I knew exactly what I needed to do. So I went back to the gym the following couple of days, and for the next 6 months, I literally dedicated myself to training to try and become a better version of myself. And then I started to do that. Things started to get better for me. I carried on communicating with this girl, and then she said, I'm gonna come and see you. So she came back in the January, about 6 months later, and as soon as she stepped off the train in my town, I just knew. I just knew that this is the person I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. So the only thought in my head at that point was to, how do I get to Chile? Like, I've got to do this. So um, I ended up fighting in the April that year, but I lost. But it didn't matter because I was a much better version of myself. Things started to improve like in so many different areas for me. Um, then after I'd had that fight, I carried on training and I fought again. So I just kept myself physically and mentally busy just to be a better person for when that time came when I did come over, or I did make that effort that I was the person who she deserved to be. But I started to realize very quickly that you can't love somebody else until you fully love yourself. So that was kind of the journey that I went on, and just started to believe in myself a lot more and believe in the person that I knew I could be. So yeah, went on that journey, and the world, and like I said, things just started happening for me. And then, like I said, I got one thing in my mind, and it was just like tunnel vision. Like, this is going to happen. This will happen. I started to be really happy in every other aspect of my life apart from the job front. But then something crazy happened on that front too. So I knew what I wanted to do, but in the current job that I was in, I wasn't very happy, and I knew, I just couldn't, book a ticket at that point and just like move my life just like that, like without having some form of plan or something to take over there with me. So whilst I was in this job, one of my friends who owned a co-working space quite close to us said to me, would I be interested in doing a talk to some business owners? Because what I actually did in my life was social media and marketing. So he asked me if I would do a presentation to some business owners there. And about 30 different business owners from around Doncaster turned up. I did this presentation, and then I just knew that maybe something could come of it. If I did this presentation, I don't know, maybe something might happen. And it did. It absolutely did. So that That night, the guy who owns the co-working space ended up texting me and saying, "Look, somebody wants to talk to you tomorrow." So the owner of a children's football academy business texted me and said, "Look, I heard that you smashed it last night. Had some of my spies basically in the audience, some of my team. Are you willing to come for a coffee now?" Pretty much. So off I went for the coffee, and he just effectively, in pretty much these words, he's like, "I understand you want to go to Chile. How can I help you get there? Because I believe you can help us." So they kind of contracted me on like a 3 or 4 month like basis with the view of something kind of like progressing afterwards. And by the next day, I walked into my job, quit on the spot. The following day, I'd booked my flights to Chile, and then literally in the November that year, after my second fight in October, I was gone, done,
Wow.
dusted.
Wow. Okay. I mean, what a story of, of transformation. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, how long are we talking from like when you first met this girl to when you actually went to Chile? Like, what's the time frame here?
Right, so we're talking. I will have met her in September 2017, and then I moved over here in November 2018.
Wow. So like a year. So in 1 year, you've met this girl, you are starting fighting. I mean, literally fighting and also, fighting your demons in another way, right? You're changing your job and you're moving to a new country in 1 year.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, when you were saying that you grew up in this town and you were there for like 35 years and hadn't really left, and in the back of my head, I know that you live in Chile now. And so I'm going, where is this? How does this happen? Because I know that there's going to be a lot of resistance for somebody to uproot their life like that after so many years, right? And it would take something big. And it sounds like that was a really big year for you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of down to her, really. Meeting her, effectively meeting her and having great friends. Effectively changed my life from that point of view. And that's, the big reason to pull it all kind of back together. The reason why I did not start creating content when I first got here and waited so long is because I wanted to wait until I was ready. And I was, because as you say, as you just pointed out there, it's 1 year, but in reality, I'd only met her for 4 weeks. So yes, we'd had conversations over the telephone, whatever it may be. Yes, we'd spoke during that whole process, but in terms of physical time spent with each other, like we're talking 4 weeks within that year. So
Right.
I knew I was becoming a stronger person when I first got here, and I didn't want to fuck everything up by putting my energy into something that wasn't about her, that wasn't about the family, that wasn't about whatever it was, into something that was then about me, and my experiences like coming to Chile. I could have done it there and it could have worked, but my main focus and goal at that point was you get to know this person that I've moved over the other side of the world for, and let's focus on that in reality. And it was when that I felt really, I guess, content, happy, secure as a person, confident as a person, that I could then go out and do those things.